Ya, volví. Hola.
You don't have to be familiar with this software.
Community
Now, you can
showcase.
find my ways for free online. I'll provide a link for this in the Discord as well for those of you tuning in. Mac World in my will be a folder called Saves, which is we need to re-explain. Now, you won't see anything at first. We haven't told it.
Yoga VR, eso te podría interesar.
Just in
Que
case
te
you
guste
break
el
anything.
yoga.
So when you find that world file,
Yoga
very
VR
important.
con tu full
Yoga
body.
Flame, dice.
Es mañana a las 10 de la mañana.
And
Yoga
when you load up the world,
fire.
it's only going to center
Para
in
mí.
at coordinate
Yoga fire.
000, exactly where you spawned. Now,
No, falla.
you know, how many times have you all been in a Minecraft world and you've had to walk for thousands of blocks to find the land that's just right for you? Well, of course, that means you're going to be thousands of blocks away sometimes, and we have to find you. So,
Rafa.
there is an easy way to find this, and it's just using the coordinates. There is also an
¿Cómo?
already current your home is where you want, or at least where you want to explain, as I've got highlighted, so you don't lose export. Now,
Oh,
there's a few things to keep in mind before we do this. The larger the range of the world, in terms of how many blocks we're actually exporting, the more work there is
no
to
hay
do.
tantos
So,
game
be
shows
worried about-
como el año
and you
pasado.
want to export, you need to find your
Street Smart VR, ¿qué será eso?
coordinates you were looking for already.
Ah, ya sé qué es eso.
Now, if you remember your coordinates from written down earlier, you can just sit there and look at the UI at the bottom, and actually, only ones that have... So either check that you're not missing a mile, should be able to see a rough block out of what your home looks the height and the depth. We've done the
Allá lo
X and
último
Y.
nos fuimos a la fiesta,
We
pero
now need the Y for the
me dio
height.
como hueva
Now, height
y
isn't too important.
y me
There's
fui.
very few cases where you wouldn't need to really be clamping the height, but it is something to keep in mind. But depth
Sí,
is the
pero
more
es que
important.
era...
So as mentioned earlier, there can be thousands of blocks below you that we do not need to export. So
Hay varias cosas,
do make sure
hay
that you set
metal,
that
hay
as close to
Funko.
where you need to be as
Funko
possible.
le-
Again, you'll save yourself to the screen.
El
This
Funko le
is to the
gustaría a
final
Draco.
export button at the top corner of the screen. Go down
Dale,
to
push.
export for rendering. This is what we'll be doing. I know we're doing this for games, but rendering is going to give us the actual model file. Import the file. If you've already
Ah, con el muñequito ese raro que
great, you can save it straight there. If you haven't
ya has
made
visto
that,
todo esto.
and then just make sure you save that somewhere where you're not going to lose it. You'll have to choose a file directory somewhere. If you're already working in a Unity project, great, you can save it straight
Pero
there.
no como el
If you
año
haven't
pasado
made
que
one
nos
yet, we're
fuimos
going to cover that in a
colar.
moment. So just save it on your desktop for now.
No, nos dice que este año los de
This
Furrality
actually
le,
creates a
le
text
pagaron
atlas
mucho a
for us.
VRChat
If you
para
do not
que
know what that is, do
implementaran
not
un
worry.
sistema
It's just a
que
really
no
nice
puedes
way of
hacer
loading out
estancias
multiple
a no
different
ser que
textures into
seas
one
de...
image, which can help save
el
us tons
dueño
of
como
memory
tal
as well,
de-
which is
del
super neat for Minecraft when there's so many block textures to cover.
Total, que ya no
The
se
next
pueden
one
hacer
is to split
estancias
block by type.
frameworks.
This will actually split all the blocks into groups so that we can actually address each different block type
Es tener
because they
poder
click OK.
adquisitivo.
Pues por algo les cobran. La neta.
Polygons are a really important thing for measuring price is what
Estás diciendo que la solución para arreglar a VRChat es
You can dig in
comprar VRChat.
Sí.
Que lo compre Sony.
No, Sony
Hombre.
no.
Lo van a censurar.
Que lo compre Xbox.
avatars, you should have the right version already.
No, hombre,
Microsoft.
te
If
quiere
you
que se
have
vaya
the
la
VR
mierda.
Creator
Que
Companion
lo
as
compre
well,
Que lo
Sí.
compre
I'm sure you're
EA.
familiar with what you're doing, but very
A la
briefly,
verga.
you just need to go
Somos-
in and
Valiendo madre, ¿no?
Unity will do its loading.
Estamos en la
It'll take
misma.
some time. It's got a lot, but it's the process. A little bit overwhelming. So for that for now. Good to have organization is really important. You don't want to be wasting hours of your time finding folds or object way to do this is just screen. Now, when you drop one component,
a recortarlo en Blender,
Changes to it
pisarlo
later.
en trozos, no, aquí
Ah.
literalmente lo mete todo.
Sí.
every single meter is in the center of where a block would
Estás
be.
diciendo que tú
Meaning
eres
when
más
you just
pro que
drag
esta
your,
persona.
gizmo
No puede
around to
ser.
move
No puede
objects around,
ser, Esteban. No
they'll
puede ser.
snap to as
Lo que quiero saber es cómo logró que los
Here's my
carteles
world.
funcionen.
not very textured right now, is it, right? So that's what we're going to do. The blocks are grouped by type. So all the grass blocks are one object, all the torches, all the wood, all the... We've saved you that. Now, another thing is entities can also go... Now, to create the materials, I'd recommend making a new folder. Again, I named my materials, but whatever works best for your memory is what's key here. You just want to right-click in that file browser, make yourself a folder, and make yourself right at home. This is where we're going to be putting all of our material stuff for the world, just to keep it in the right place. Now,
para todo.
we're going to right click in an empty space in that
Se
file browser
supone que
again,
así es.
inside that new
No,
folder
no,
we
es
just
que yo cuando
created,
lo hacía
and we're going to
en
name it
Minecraft, estaban
opaque block.
materiales separados,
This is because
y
we're
eran
going to make
como
a block
146
that cannot be seen
materiales
through.
de una textura
I'll be a
pixelada.
little bit more
Pero
detailed about
este
that
de
later on
acá,
about why we're doing
el
it this
chico de
way.
acá, lo que hace
In
es
that, you want
que
to
cuando lo
drag in
exporta
the
del
world
programa,
RGBA texture
se
file
crea solo
that
un
was
material.
exported along with
Eso
all of your model from
se
earlier as well.
aprecia.
You should have 3 texture images because we set the
Desventajas de
3
eso,
image texture atlases from earlier,
no sé
as
qué
mentioned
sería
in the
desventaja
export
de eso,
settings.
habría que averiguar.
We'll highlight some
Pero si es
reflections
así,
because default Minecraft doesn't
simplifica
have
mucho,
that.
mucho trabajo.
A little shortcut, not the parent.
Dice, ahí hay algo que le
So yes, as I mentioned earlier, and bang, every single object in your world has materials all in one go. Handy little tip, might be useful elsewhere as well.
Wow.
So yes, as I mentioned earlier, a quick note, signs will not export text. Sometimes signs can have some really important things on them. Now, I do have a workaround for you. At the end of this panel on the Discord, I'm going to provide you with a little prefab. It's basically just a Minecraft font UI panel that you can drag over and have your individual lines there to write whatever you want. So you'll have to remember what you type,
Ahora,
but if you still got access to
tengo
the
que
Minecraft
mencionar.
world, that'll help you a ton as well.
El próximo
Ah,
año
no
creo que
automated,
la voy a
but it's
pensar
at
si
least a
compro la
solution.
entrada o no.
Now,
ayúdame, Rafa.
¿Te sentiste
given everything
estafado?
Textures, but it looks
Rafa, yo me
awful.
Un poquito.
Every
El chico dice
Minecraft font UI can have
que
some
él
really
va a entregar
handy little tip, might be useful elsewhere as well.
un prefab en alguna parte.
So yes, as I mentioned earlier,
¿Y
a
lo
quick
quieres?
note, signs will not
¿No
export
quieres
text.
como pagar
Sometimes
entrada
they can have some
solamente
really
para este
important
prefab?
things on them.
O sea,
Now,
lo va a
I
dar gratis, pero creo que lo da gratis en el server de Furrality. Quería preguntarte si... Déjame ver exactamente dónde él dice que va a estar, para ver si me lo puede sacar. Déjame ver.
do have a workaround for you. At the end of this
Pero
panel on the
escucha
Discord,
bien
I'm gonna
dónde lo
provide you
pone.
with a
Aquí
little
está
prefab.
el
It's
servidor.
basically just a
Vamos a ver.
Minecraft font UI panel that you can drag over and have your
Dijo
individual
que es un
lines there
Unity
to write
package.
whatever you
El
want.
tipo
So
se
you have to
llama
remember what you type,
Calisto.
but if you
Es un prefab que hace que reconozca las letras de los letreros de Minecraft. Supongo que en alguna parte de la charla en el Discord tendrá algún link, porque dijo que lo va a dejar ahí como a mano. Debe ser ahí.
You still got access.
¿Tienes el nombre del creador? O sea, puedo buscarlo en GitHub. ¿Cómo se llama?
En el schedule sale.
to the Minecraft world, that will help you a ton as well. It's not automated, but it's at least a
Atlas se
solution.
llama.
Now,
Pero aquí tengo algo.
given everything textures, but it looks awful. Everything really does look that original rope, not to compress.
Mira,
the
te voy a
fonts,
pasar
it's
esta
not just- We're
información.
working with pixel art textures here, so just to go into
La textura.
Links.
now, if you'll have a look, every world we go to
plugins
has something at night,
opcionales.
usually. How else can we see? At nighttime and make that effect earlier, called the opaque block, and we're just going to
Make it in la
That's all we're going to
mapa.
do, and then we're just going to make.
Algunas de estas
one
cosas
final
tú ya le
example
sabes,
of that.
pero
Once you have the opaque block and you've duplicated it,
te copio y te
make sure
pego
to
y ahí
rename it to light
revisas.
block, so you don't get confused with that later on. And then you're going to
Ahí
go
está,
to the
dice
third
de
Snap Materials
bakery, ya tú
Inspector,
sabes de
and you're
bakery,
going
tú
to
no
enable
necesitas
emission,
bakery.
and you're just going to drag in the same albedo color texture
Uno esperaría.
into that emission slot, and then leave everything as it
No,
is.
y el Unity Package está
Now, as you
acá.
can see in the screenshots here, everything looks lit. The lights look a little bit more natural. Torches,
¿Qué es esto?
campfires. Doesn't mean it's making any light. Placing lights takes a really long time, and this is why it's really important that you
Mira, aquí dice algo
because
de
it has an
banners.
campfires, nether portal blocks. You can go further than default Minecraft if you really want to.
Dice banners, paintings, item frames, mob hostile,
Now,
the enchanting table.
just above or under the light sources, the light source, any light,
Todos esos son considerados entidades
use any.
y no se pueden exportar. Los banners se van a exportar, pero tú no vas a tener la textura o los datos de
Mine
color.
are much older, slightly from NVIDIA.
Y
Now,
esta
we're
lista que
getting
te
close.
pasó es una lista de entidades,
Apply to things like
de
glass
cosas
later on as
que
well.
no se pueden
Now,
exportar.
to do this, we're just
o
going to
importar.
go to the inspector and just make
Y el
sure you get this
Unity
little color
package
transparent lighting.
Está aquí.
Now, there's just a final few tweaks we need to make. Normally have to create like
Paso esto.
just click the parent object. Light baking is basically an art form in it.
Te paso esto.
Ya,
Mira,
por lo
para
menos
que no
todo.
digas
Out
que,
there. Of course, if you know a friend that does this stuff,
para que no digas que
to them
no
as
sacaste
well,
nada de
I'm sure they'll have
Furrality.
some great information.
Minecraft Sync Effects.
Now, baking light isn't as easy as just clicking the bake lighting and letting it rip. There are a few settings we are going to need to tweak, just to at least try and give you something easy to work from. This should be a fairly bomb-proof good enough solution for a lot of you. But of course, if
Yeah,
your world
no
is
dice
just
nada
that
más.
massive, you will have to tweak things. But
Hacen
if your world
preguntas y
was that big,
respuestas.
you'd know what you're doing by the start.
tenías
so you
dudas,
need to
pudiste
now
haber
hit the
preguntado.
take.
Sí, sí. Me había dicho por qué no es tan bueno como mi tutorial.
We've got the sunlight coming in through the window. We've got the actual campfire where I put an orange point light in there to have some more warmth coming from it. We can entire. So
Y aquí implica relleno de mundo, que también le sé. Y ya nada más. Ok.
probes are really important. There will be tons of worlds that you've been in before.
Mira lo que dice.
Now, of course, we can only bake objects that don't move, but the important thing for calculating objects that do move is to give them some sort of light information to try and base themselves off of. So, if you have a player walking through into your house, there's going to be a lot more orange light compared to the more white light outside. We need to adjust that, otherwise people are going to look a bit out of place. So, try learning about what light probes are. Again, not something we can cover here, and there are some free tools that actually help you get those done a lot quicker, and there are some paid ones that are even better, so I won't be covering that.
A ver,
My-
tienes Exodia.
No, voy a abrir 10 paquetes, güey. ¿Quién ver cómo no me sale nada? Básicamente.
A ver.
Que te salga
pero
Kuribo.
en la...
We need to be able to walk around, of
A
course.
ver.
Now, there is a pretty
A
Te
ver,
sale Kuribo, vale la
this,
pena.
and it's just using Mesh Collide.
A ver, está